are as follows. When there are 30 seconds left, you'll hear one short ring. When time is up, you'll hear a long ring. After that, for every 10 seconds, you'll hear a short ring. When it's 30 seconds into the extension, you'll hear another long ring. And upon hearing that, you have to stop your speech. And rules for timing your crossfire are as follows. When there are 30 seconds left, you'll hear a short ring. When time is up, you'll hear a long ring. And upon hearing that, you have to stop your crossfire. Each team needs to prepare evidence cards for Q&A. Any evidence cited during the debate will have a corresponding evidence card, which may be reviewed upon request. The cards need to be returned at the end of the preparation time, following the crossfire session. For the audience, please turn off your cell phone or turn it to the vibrate mode. When the debate is still in progress, please do not chat or use flash when taking pictures. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question. So the evidence card has to be returned during the preparation time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Before we started, I would like to have 3 points. Make sure you guys know that. First of all, speak clearly, articulating, and announce each your word, and don't be rushed. Okay, and slow down. And number 2, be civil. Don't attack. And when you have a crossfire, please facing the judges. Okay, we need to see that. Because if you facing to each other, your voice will carry on, and we won't be able to hear you. And I don't want to after that we misjudging that you're the next point. And number 3, take a deep breath. Okay? And enjoy this debate. Enjoy this journey. Okay, thank you.
Result. On balance, the world will be a better place if there are fewer languages. Our first contention is efficiency. Having fewer languages may also make it easier to develop and spread knowledge and information. For example, in academic and scientific fields, having a common language can facilitate the sharing of research findings and the development of new knowledge. As Freud and Mister, one of the world's most influential and most cited psychologists, said in 1908, if some obscure language easy to be spoken, it is not as millions or even dozens of people will be unable to talk. All it means is that people would have spoken the language that will speak. All it means that people would have speak a language will speak a different language. The purpose of language is communication. Communication requires mutual understanding. A language only works if the speaker and hearer both understand it. In addition, even some of the speakers of the endangered languages themselves see their language as limiting. James Herbeck, an editor trained in linguistics, said in 2015, if they or their children are to be successful, they need to know the language of education, of science, of business, so they can talk to each other and gain the vast source of knowledge available. In any event, if speakers no longer want to speak a language, who are we to tell them that they are wrong? If they don't want to speak the language, then it has no purpose whatsoever. Natalia Navisha, MPI for Psycholinguistics, Stephen Mora, and assistant professor, Institute of Biology, have written, we can zoom out and ask, how do global biological and cultural factors spread, shape the language system as a whole, making it more efficient as a cultural tool? Put simply, systems that are more efficient have lower predictability of their units from preceding context. Notably, languages with a larger number of speakers usually have more efficient written language than languages with a smaller number of speakers. These interviewing results suggest that cultural evolution can shape language structure in many subtle ways, which can be detected only with the help of corpora and statistics. Our second condition document its vocabulary, grammar, and syntax. This requires a lot of time and effort, as well as expertise in linguistics, which will eventually cost a lot of money. And even with even have more languages is better, it will not justify the high cost associated with preserving them. As senior lecturer in physiology Rebecca Roche writes in 2017, quote, "The value of minority languages might be outweighed by the value of not supporting them. We can preserve a minority language by paying people. Instead, we must get people to make the language a big part of their lives if we want the language to grow beyond a form of linguistics. We must impose lifestyle change on people, whether they like it or not. But doing so can be forceful and irreversible. As we mentioned in our previous contention, it is not our choice, it's the speakers. And it's not like we force them to give up their language. It's just inevitable." John McWhorter, a linguistics professor at Columbia University, said in 2009, "Assuming that we can keep 6,000 languages alive is the rough equivalent of supposing that we can stop, say, ice from developing soft spots as people speak indigenous languages migrate to cities. Inevitably, they learn globally dominant language like English." Thank you.
Greetings, honorable judges and fellow debaters. We, the Kansai, strongly believe that on balance, the world will not be a better place if there are fewer languages. Now, we would like to announce our own definition of better. The word better means a word with more culture diversity and better language preservation ability, with more chance of experience different cultures. First of all, we would like to point out our core value, which is language is the main carrier of culture and identity. And with greater culture diversity, the culture diversity and work productivity can be both increased. Next, we will prove the deep relationship between culture and language. Professor David Alvis said in his work, "Relationship between language and culture. Language has a strong connection to culture diversity and culture inheritance. The culture of people finds reflection in language that they employ because they value certain things and do them in a certain way. They come to use their language in ways that reflect what they value and what they do." As we can see from the article, language plays a big role in culture. It is what people use in their daily life and what presents a region or a nation. Second, Peter Austin, a professor of field linguistics at the University of London, said in the report made by the BBC, "Why we must save dying language." He mentioned language are conduits of human heritage. Writing is a relatively recent development in our history, and written system currently exists for only about 1/3 of the world's language. So language itself is often the only way to convey a community's songs, stories, and poems. For example, when Taiwanese want to say a person makes no bones about things, they often use the word asari, which originally was Japanese. This reminded us two things. One is that language reflects history. The other is that there are some gaps between language, and that is what makes each language irreplaceable. Because language has its own uniqueness and irreplaceability, it cannot be simply regarded as a tool of communication. Also, languages contains a accumulated body of knowledge, including about geography, zoology, mathematics, and navigation, and more. In the case of Cherokee, that language was born thousands of years, spending inhabiting the southern Appalachian Mountains. Cherokee words also conveys the characteristic of a certain object, from whether it is edible to what kinds of tools it can produce. Ken Hales, a chair of the linguistic department at Swarthmore College, says, "When you lose a language, you lose a culture, intellectual wealth, and a work of art."
According to a research made by McKinsey & Company, a global management consulting firm, by looking at cultural diversity in 6 countries where the data were reliable, they found out that companies in the top quartile for gender or racial and ethnic diversity are more likely to have financial returns above their national industry medians. Then they came to a result. Diversity is a competitive differentiator, shifting market share toward more diverse companies. Also, McKinsey's research of over 1,000 organizations and 3 million people found that companies with cultures in the top quartile perform 200 better than those in the bottom quartile. As in 2014, we found that companies with the most ethnically diverse executive teams, not only with respect to absolute representation, but also of a variety of mix of cultures, are 35% more likely to outperform their peers on profitability. Here's another example. According to an article from swissinfo.ch, multilingualism brings in economical benefits. To begin with, the economic value of multilingualism to Switzerland has been estimated to be 9% of its gross domestic product. Also, the value of multilingualism to IT services has been calculated to be nearly 25%. And its value to chemical, transport, and mechanical engineering and more is to be over 50% each. Last but not least, recent surveys show that will learn top language skills and cultural awareness among their personnel. Therefore, we, the concept, strongly disagrees that with fewer languages, the world will be a better place. Thank you.
Greetings. So many cultures has disappeared over next few years. For example, the culture of the ancient Greeks is a word worth of because these cultures have disappeared. Can you rephrase your question? So many cultures has disappeared over the years. For example, the culture of the ancient Greek is a world worse because these cultures become disappeared. Well, can you make it short and point out what you're trying to ask? So I want to ask that some cultures, for example, like ancient Greece, have disappeared. Is the world become worse because of it?
Okay, so the disappearance of language is not the main topic we're discussing about, therefore it's not a topic, because what we're discussing about is why the world would be a better place if there are fewer languages.
So do you agree that with common language, we can overcome the language barrier?
Yes. Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yes, okay. Can I ask a follow-up?
Okay.
Okay. So then do you agree that multilingualism can also overcome the language barrier?
Repeat it again, please.
So do you agree that multilingualism, which a person that can operate multiple language can overcome the barrier.
Sure, of course, but in a few, if the world has fewer language, then we still have to have the multilingualism whether it's fewer or not. And I want to ask another question that language seems like something arose from a geographical separation. So how is that connected to culture?
Can you rephrase about what you were trying to ask about geographic?
Different language is because they have different geographical. For example, in Taiwan or in a language, they speak different language since they have different geographical situation. So what is it connected to a culture?
We did not mention about any geographical question or the forming of a language. Therefore, we cannot get your question.
So you guys still said that, you still said that with common languages, people can overcome language barriers. Okay, so I want to ask that, how can you prove that fewer languages means that people will have common languages, and that with more languages, it means that people won't have common languages and there will be more barriers?
I don't answer that with more language we don't have the common language and fewer will not have the common language or something else. I just said that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, the opponent said that the loss of language will lead to a loss of culture. But first, the truth is that the loss of language actually spread culture. Cultures involve arts, songs, poems, educational.
We should reach 2 minutes for break. They're not talking, right? They are working together. They're not. Yeah, break.
So the opponent said that the loss of language will lead to a loss of culture. But first, the truth is that the loss of language actually spread culture. Culture involves arts, songs, poems, quotationals, or something else. And Kenneth Malik mentioned that the campaigns for
linguistic diversity fails to understand what makes a culture dynamics. It is an overcoming of barrier to social interaction. The more universally we can communicate, the more dynamic our culture will be, because they will be more open to new ways of thinking and doing. Therefore, figure languages are actually the right way to spread the culture, including art, nutritionals, or tech. And second, the loss of language doesn't kill culture. John McWhorter mentioned that the language itself does not correspond to the particulars of culture, but to a faceless process that creates new languages that as a result of geographical separation. And all humans can exhibit that the exact same culture with different languages, for example. Also, all attempts to conjure any meaningful indication of cultural outlook from language has fallen apart with only a few isolated shards of evidence. For example, he mentioned in an article that Spanish, the table has a female feminine gender, but it isn't actually a meaningful cultural or thought. It's just someone who pressed you to let these two things reconnect. And third, I want to give an example that culture doesn't really connect to the language. For example, Jewish people in the United States, they will only speak English, not Hebrew. You cannot say that, oh, you're not really Jewish because you don't speak Hebrew. This doesn't make sense at them because they will know the story of the King David, they will know the story of the Western Wall. And fourth, another example is that, for example, in Taiwan, we also see Chinese for our common language, and we still know the different diversity of culture. For example, the American culture of the hamburger, of the NBA, or baseball. Or we can know the Japanese culture, some like comic. We can know the Chinese own culture, some like the kingdom, all the things, Qing dynasty or else. And I want to add something that to preserve a language really costs a lot of time and stuff. And the world has 7,000 languages now. If we want to preserve every of the language, it will really cost a lot of time and money. And another thing is that if we don't want to cost this so much money, we need to have fewer languages so we can have the effect of the GDP become higher. Jordan Pearson, a managing editor at the Tech Advice Bureau, mentioned that the dominant effect of a single social economic factor, GDP per capita, on student growth rate suggests that economic growth and globalization are primary drivers of recent language speaker declines. So, we strongly suggest that if we have a fewer language, we can boost the economy, and language didn't connect to the culture at all. Thank you.
According to honorable judges and fellow debaters, we, the concept, strongly disagree that the world will be a better place with fewer language. First, I want to enforce our arguments. I want to state that cultural diversity is very important and that it's highly correlated with language diversity. As we have proved the deep correlation between language and culture, socialist Dr. Tayo Rosado, a leading expert in multiculturalism, defines cultural diversity as a system of beliefs and behaviors that recognizes and respects the presence of all diverse groups in an organization or society. The concept core value is to build a world filled with diversity in language and culture. People interact peacefully on the foundation of knowing the difference of languages and cultures. Here, I'm going to bring up an example to support our other arguments. Although Switzerland is certainly not immune to language tension, there has been no major upheaval in this respect. The only exception to this linguistic harmony is the issue of jura. The fact is that language conflicts have not developed over Switzerland as a whole. The country's cohesion is strong and no major secessionist movement has taken shape in any of the language groups. Second, Switzerland has experienced an exceptional linguistic stability. Over 5 decades, from 1970 to 2018, there has been a slight decrease in the percentage of German-speaking Swiss, dropping from 56% to 52%. Italian-speaking Swiss from 11% to 8%, and Romance speakers from 0.8% to 0.5%. At the same time, the percentage of French speakers increased from 18% to 23%. The percentages of German, French, and Italian speakers have changed little over the years, both at the national level and within each canton. This has calmed concerns and helped to establish relationships of trust between these groups. Next, when the Prozac mentioned that preserving languages costs a lot of money, and that languages disappear, the fact that languages disappear is a natural process. As this is a public forum debate, the emphasis should not be placed on how languages can be preserved, and we should focus on containing the reasons and evidence for or against having more languages and its impact. Therefore, the fact that the Prozac was trying to explain the natural disappearance of languages and that the cost of preserving them is totally meaningless because it's out of topic. We should be debating over whether a world with fewer languages will be better instead of why there will be fewer languages. Well, why there will be less languages.
As the pro side rebutted us by saying we don't have enough evidence, we'll give another evidence of the relationship between language and culture. It is made by Katarina Lut from the University of LUT. Language, thought, culture are so closely interconnected that they in fact constitute as a single whole. Containing these three components, neither of which can function and exist without the two. So therefore we can see that cultural diversity is highly correlated with language diversity. And actually, cultural diversity has more economic benefits than to cover those. We have more economic benefits that we can produce with cultural diversity. It is giving us a platform which we can create ideas and thoughts that makes more productivity and profitability. Thank you.
Could I have the close evidence card, the one about Spanish, the feminines, the language?
Sure.
So I want to ask the first that, can you repeat the definition of the better you mentioned?
Okay. So our better world represents a world with more cultural diversity and better language preservation ability, with more chance of experience different culture.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so You ended your rebuttal speech with language has nothing to do with culture, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so please prove it to me. Do you have
So-
any evidence?
Language.
Evidence that shows language has nothing to do with culture.
Yes. And I want to make sure again that what's the arguments you made in the rebuttal of the German speech Swiss part.
Swiss part. Okay, so
So what we're trying to prove that multilingualism and living with harmony without conflicts that cause language is possible. Swiss is the perfect example of different ethnic group and language lives in harmony. That's what we're trying to prove.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So why is how much is the cost of preserving a language? Since you have been saying that there's a lot of cost, do you have evidence of how much exactly?
Sorry, I need to find the articles.
Okay, can you just
after you need to do an analytical.
Okay. So you've mentioned that culture is strongly connected to language, is right?
yes, we have evidence.
Okay. Can I just see the evidence of it? And I can answer it that the cost of preserving language is that when it comes to assessing the economic cost of language barriers, the 37 billion figure is only a tip of the iceberg. That's the cost of it.
Thank you.
culture have strong connection, and we don't think it's right because like we're Taiwanese and we know about American culture, but we're not American, but we know about American culture. So and we speak Chinese, so there's no really connection between those two. And they had and I want to say that oh, okay, so our contention is that what if someone who doesn't want to speak their mother language, their mother tongue, because they think their culture is bad or something? You can just say, okay, so, and we don't have to preserve language because we can translate, like the technology is developing very fast, and we have ChatGPT, and we can just translate Chinese into like German or something. But just like I said, we don't have to do this because like if we just speak like fewer languages, we don't have to translate too many languages into only one language. Yes, and like I said, technology is developing very fast, and we don't need to, we can translate, but we also can just speak like a fewer languages, so like everybody that can understand some common language, like for example English, German, Spanish, or something. And yes, and we want to say that language is not like creatures. Losing creatures might have a large impact on ecology, but language doesn't, because if a language becomes extinct, that means this language isn't useful. And so we don't have to protect any languages that are becoming extinct on purpose. And again, some people, they don't want to speak their mother tongue, so like some people, they want to migrate to another country because they don't want to stay in their country. And yeah, that's it. And we strongly, yes, we believe that efficiency is everything. We don't have to preserve any of it. We don't have to preserve the endangered language.
Greetings, honorable judges and fellow debaters. We, the concept, strongly disagree that the world would be a better place if there are fewer languages. First of all, I want to do some rebuttal. The prototype stated that language has nothing to do with culture in the end of the speech. However, the evidence that he provided us only shows that the disappearance of language doesn't kill culture. And it doesn't support the word nothing to do. Because as we the concept proves, language diversity is highly correlated with cultural diversity, and the cultural diversity will make the world better. Okay, next. They didn't, when we asked during the first crossfire, we asked if the world, people will have common languages if there are fewer languages. However, they failed to prove it to us.
Second, they also stated that preserving endangered language costs a lot, but we have successfully rebutted by saying we have proved the importance of economic benefits, and it has totally outweighs the cost of the preservation of language. And second, they also mentioned that if the person or people, if they don't want to learn a certain language, that language will go extinct. But we see no connection between the topic and their statements. Also, they have mentioned the translation problem. They also stated that with fewer language, translation can be easily done. But the truth is that translation has no correct correlation with fewer or more languages, since translation can, if the translation skill, if we have translation skill, then we don't have the problem of having more or less languages. Thank you.
Okay, next I'm going to summarize our arguments once again. First of all, language diversity can is highly correlated with cultural diversity and that it can help us become a better world. Secondly, we explained why languages is inevitable from irreplaceable from the perspective of history and knowledge. Third, we explained that language can help bring financial returns by bringing out the example from McKinsey & Company. Last but not least, we proved from the Switzerland example that multilingualism leads to economic benefits. For all the reasons above, we, the con side, strongly disagree that with fewer languages, the world will be a better place. Thank you.
Greetings. So I want to have the evidence how that shows the sorry. How many preparation time? Okay, so greetings. So I want to have the evidence part that you mentioned in the concerning speech story for the speech state that community with cultural diversity can have better, the better community have the cultural diversity.
Okay. I want to ask the next question that when she mentioned in the sermon speech, she said that she gave out an example that says we speak Chinese but not American culture. Can you explain that again, please?
Okay, so we are Taiwanese. We speak Chinese for our mother tongue. And we can also know the American culture, such as hamburger is from American, is American culture. The National Basketball League, the NBA, is an American culture that always come into Taiwan, and we all know this culture. So this is a
So I believe that you misunderstood us because what we're trying to mention is that language will create its own unique culture, and we're not talking about culture exchange. Okay.
so and I want to answer it is that the evidence card I gave you is that the evidence card says that
You should have.
oh, you should add on okay and so I want to make sure again that the better place of the world is you can experience the culture. Yes, it or not?
Yes, and with more culture, we can increase work productivity, profitability, and also give a person a unique self identity of knowing who am I. So there's a lot of benefits that language brings, since we have proved that language has a strong connection to the cultural diversity.
So now I want to ask that, and they mentioned in their summary speech that if people don't want to use their mother tongue, can you explain that again?
So this is a choice of us to choice if we want to speak our mother tongue or not. For example, I can choose I want to speak Chinese, or I want to speak English, or I want to speak Japanese.
And I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, sure.
How is it related to the topic?
So I just want to say that if we can choose a language we want to speak, and they mentioned that if language strongly connected to a culture, so is it true? It is true that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Strongly persuade everyone that the pros side, the world will be a better place if there are fewer languages. First, just think about it. If you have a lot of ideas that may involve the world to a new generation, or it's a breakthrough achievement, but you cannot write them down, say them to others, or simply let others know. Is this thing important to us? No, since nobody knows what to think. That's why communication is dominant. No one will understand what you think if no one can understand you. Yes, language has a function of the cultures, as the opponent says, and they also mentioned that the world will be the better means that we can experience different culture. But if we cannot know their culture because we can communicate with them, how can we know the culture of them? How can we experience the culture? Is the world will really be a better place because of the diversity of language without communicate? No. Then why culture is important at all? We cannot see the fact. And in addition to the reason we've said before, fewer language will boost the economy, which makes everyone richer. Isn't that a good thing for us? Everyone wants to be rich. Everyone wants to buy expensive cars, expensive bags, expensive diamonds, or a tag. It's not shallow at all. It is a desire that every normal person would have. Everyone wants to be rich. This is the truth. Therefore, we think that the world would be a better place if there are fewer languages. Thank you.
Greetings, honorable judges and fellow debaters. It is our honor for the Kansai to sum up the entire debate. We would like to compare the two better words between what the pro and the con have argued. The pro side put much of their attentions on economic boost and had less cost on preservation of languages, creating a world focusing on economy, but also a liveless world with everyone thinking similar, speaking similar, and generating ideas and artwork similarly. Everyone will be limited inside a tiny box called language. But with many cultures and languages in the world, we can build a world with vigor, a world where each ethnic groups have their own language, self-identity, and culture. Nations will treasure their own valuable language and preserve the knowledge, literature, and traditions inside, and inherit this invaluable language to the descendants. Furthermore, help people find their own unique self-identity. People will also be multilingualism, like Swiss people, preserving a native language while having a common language to communicate with each other. The world will also respect the presence of all ethnic groups and cooperating with each other, exchanging experience, sprouting out various of ideas and thoughts, also increasing productivity and profitability. People will live, enjoy, and respect in this colorful, exciting, vigorous world with more language and culture. Thank you.
That's the end of this debate. Soon we'll have the judges speakers on about both teams' performance. Now please stop recording and wait outside. Thank you.